Hi everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thank you so much for watching. On this show, I'm going to go over a catalog that's been kind of ignored on my shows. I've done a lot of episodes that are centered around Van Halen, and because I personally happen to have a preference for the Sammy years, because those are the years I got into music, poor Dave has kind of gotten the shaft as far as his solo stuff, but I do have it and I do like it. So on this episode, I'm going to go through my Diamond Dave solo album collection on CD. Now, there isn't a great deal here, and I think I'm missing a couple little things here and there, but I'm going to go over what I do have. So, of course, David Lee Roth's initial release, it's not an album, came out early '85, and at this point, you know, there was speculation, was he or wasn't he still in Van Halen? Of course, it's Crazy from the Heat. Of course, gave him his biggest solo single with his version of California Girls, went all the way to #3. Also, Just a Gigolo, I Ain't Got Nobody was a big hit for him as well. And curiously, this didn't exist on CD until 1992. I'll show you what it looks like here. This is a Canadian CD, so if you can see in the very small print, I think. No, I guess it doesn't. Doesn't have the year differentiation on here, but. Oh, on the CD it does. Okay. Probably hard to tell with the glare, but way down here on the bottom, no, sorry, it's right up here, 1992. So you couldn't get Crazy from the Heat on CD before that. Maybe in Japan. I don't know if there was a Japanese version, but it wasn't available domestically until '92, which of course was way, way late for many people to buy it, but I happened to pick it up, and probably a good thing. I don't know if this is rare in this version now on Warner Brothers, because I know it's been reissued by Friday Music, but there you go. So that really wasn't, you know, what Dave was going to be doing, per se. His first actual solo album, all-time classic, came out in summer '86, Eat 'Em and Smile. This is a fun album, and man, oh man, did he have a good band with Greg Bissonette on drums, Billy Sheehan on bass, and little Stevie Vai ripping it up on guitar. Oddly enough, a lot of the keyboards on this album were played by Jesse Harms, who had just come from Sammy's solo band. No one ever talks about that. This is a U.S. edition of Eat 'Em and Smile on Warner Brothers, of course. He retained, you know, his record label. At this point, still had Ted Templeman producing. Yankee Rose was really the only top 40 hit off this album, but Going Crazy and That's Life were videos as well. Of course, this has Shy Boy, a remake of Billy Sheehan's song from Tallis, and it's a fun album, you know. And a lot of people went to this side of the Van Halen argument as opposed to going over to 5150. Of course, I love 5150 and all of those Sammy albums, but I like this one too. Record sales wise, it didn't do quite as well. You know, there is something to be said for brand recognition, but Dave was doing all right at this point as a solo artist, and the tour was very successful as well. He followed it up with an album I always liked. It went platinum, but after that, it started to be perceived as it wasn't that good an album, which always surprised me. Skyscraper came out early 1988. Now, this, it's funny because my CDs used to be in a window, and I learned why you don't do that. This was initially a red color, and it's not supposed to be that light. This got very, very light, and it's supposed to be the same color as this. It clearly isn't. Just like Paradise was a big single off this one. Don't know how well that song's dated. It's so pop. It's very, very of its time. But it was his most successful single that wasn't a cover. It went all the way to #6, so you got to give him that. Surprisingly enough, that was it. There were no other hit singles off this album, even though, like I said, I thought it was quite good. Stand Up was the only other video, I think. And Damn Good was sort of an acoustic ballad, but in Dave's style, was a third single. But I don't think they made a video for it. If they did, it didn't get a lot of play. I thought that was a really good song and could have done more. But this has a lot of fun songs on it. I mean, The Bottom Line, Knuckle Bones, Hot Dog and a Shake. Maybe a little too jokey for some people. Hina is a song a lot of people like. That's got more of a classic Van Halen vibe. This was the last one to feature Billy Sheehan, and it doesn't have the crazy bass playing like Eat 'Em and Smile does. There's a lot more keyboards on this from Brett Tuggle. But a good album that I always liked, and like I said, even though it went platinum, it didn't really have a lot of staying power. So it was almost 3 years before there was another, actually yeah, it was just about 3 years before Dave put out another solo album. Early 1991, put out A Little Ain't Enough, and this album was the only one that he worked with Bob Rock on. Sounds great. This might be his best solo album. It's definitely his best recorded, his best produced. He had a great band on this, including Jason Becker, who we all know the story. Jason got ALS. He's still making music to this day, though, which is pretty amazing. This has a lot of great songs on it. I mean, the title song, Lady Luck, is one of my all-time favorites. Hammerhead Shark, 40 Below, Sensible Shoes, that was a single. No hits off this album. As a matter of fact, I'll show you there, it's a US edition. This hit the delete bins within the year, which is surprising. It went gold right away, but it was one of those, I think Warner Brothers thought it was going to sell more than it did. And you could find this album on CD or cassette really cheap for a long time after that. But I really, really like this album. I think it's deserving of some revisiting. I really do. Yeah, it's got all the lyrics inside of it too. So yeah, you should be able to pick this one up fairly cheaply, and it's worth it. I think this might be his best. Although there's another one that's sort of in contention for that. Another 3 years, of course, between 1991 and 1994, traditional rock went through a complete upheaval. And Dave put out a new album, I think it was like in the springtime, seem to recall. Oddly enough, the single he put out from this, great song called She's My Machine, very classic Van Halen sounding song, came out right around the same time as Sammy Hagar's single High Hopes from his Unboxed compilation. So once again, the two of them were battling it out as solo artists, probably for the first time since the Van Halen thing. So Your Filthy Little Mouth, different album, very different album. Found this in the delete bins too. This was produced by Nile Rodgers, the legendary Chic guitarist, who's worked with a lot of rock bands, so don't let that throw you. And there are some rockers on here, but there's a country song on here, Cheatin' Heart Cafe, a duet with Travis Tritt, believe it or not. He covers Willie Nelson's Nightlife. There's some R&B sounding things on here. I'm not the craziest about this album, I'm really not, and it was a big downturn for Dave. I don't even think it hit the top 40, didn't certify, and it hit the delete bins even faster. But Dave still stands by this album. I remember reading an interview with him probably 3-4 years later saying that this album's like a live shell on a beach, and one of these days a song's going to hook into a film and it'll be huge. I don't think that's going to happen, but you got to admire Dave, his unsinkableness, Now, on the other hand, now we're post sort of the, oh, not quite yet, sorry, 1997. Dave's solo career may have been brief, but it was definitely worthy of compiling. So 1997, Rhino, which is a division of Warner Brothers, put this out. It's called The Best, and this featured one new song and just a bunch of songs from the previous albums that I've already talked about. It's got 20 songs on it. A lot of Dave's solo songs were really, really short. But if you're thinking to yourself, okay, has it got this? Yes, it does. It doesn't just have singles. It's got, it's got Big Trouble, it's Showtime, Big Train, Hot Dog and a Shake, Easy Street, Ladies Night in Buffalo, Land's Edge. Like, it's got, and it's got all the singles too. And what I like about it is that it also has the chart positions. But Dave did really well on the rock charts as far as, placing songs. It's got all the lyrics to the songs too, which is interesting because none of his other, well, Eat 'Em a Smile didn't have the lyrics, neither did Crazy from the Heat. But it's got all the chart positions of all these songs. So this is a good compilation. This is the best of Dave all in one spot. But in 1998, moving past major label, he put out what I think is one of his best. Even though it's got a confusing band title, I consider it a David Lee Roth album, DLR Band. This came out sometime in 1998, very quietly, and the copy I have is on Vel Records, or Wawazat, which is the name of one of the songs on here. Great album. This had John Five on some of the songs. It's got a lot of good people playing on this song, but this is a classic sounding Dave album. I mean, it's got a lot of early Van Halen touches on here. Slam Dunk, great song, King of the Hill, Little Texas, Lose the Dress, Keep the Shoes, Counterbalance. I love this album. There's some cool guitar stuff on here. Of course, being on a small label, it didn't really do anything. I mean, what chance does it have, right? But man, oh man, I remember when this first came out, I listened to this all the time. And I'm going to say, from the two things that came out in 1998 in the Van Halen camp, between this and Van Halen 3, to me this sounds way more than Van Halen and has better songs on it. That's my hot take right there. And the only other thing I have from Diamond Dave came out in 2003, and to this date is his newest still studio album, although there's been rumors he's been going to put some new music out. He's got some new songs, but until I see an album that I can actually order, it's kind of a moot point. It's simply called Diamond Dave. It's mostly covers. It's definitely mostly covers. I mean, he covers the Beatles, he covers the Doors, he covers Jimi Hendrix. He does like a big band version of Ice Cream Man from the first Van Halen album, which in and of itself was a cover. It's good. I don't listen to it all that much, but, you know, still giving her out there. Oddly enough, it's on Magna Carta Records, which is primarily a prog rock label. And this is definitely not a prog album, but, you know, it's Dave. Now, I know he put out a bluegrass album called Strummin' with the Devil. Ask me how excited I am to hear a bluegrass album by anybody. So I don't have that. That's all I've got. Am I missing anything? Should I pick up that bluegrass album? Is there anything else out there that I missed somehow from David Lee Roth as a solo artist? Let me know. And thank you for watching Tim's Final Confessions.